made this work. I made us worse. We fell apart 1,000 times, 1,000 times. You moved away. I'm here to stay. I wish I could go back in time, back in time. I'm so sorry that I hurt you so deep. Swear I spent the last few years just trying to change. I'm on my knees and I'm begging you, please. Is there any chance you're thinking about me? If I change my ways, babe, won't you come back to me? Make no mistakes, babe, won't you come back to me? Stop until you're here, till you're here. You're miles away. It's safe to say it's almost like you've disappeared, disappeared. I'm so sorry that I hurt you so deep. Swear I spent the last few years just trying to change. I'm on my knees and I'm begging you, please. Is there any chance you're thinking about me? If I change my ways, babe, won't you come back to me?
Hello, let's try that again. And welcome to the Healing Moment podcast. I am very excited for the conversation here tonight. The title of tonight's program is Breaking the Research of Healing in Corporate America, Black Women Tell Their Stories. So my guests tonight will be sharing their stories of how they have navigated through corporate America and how they are using their experience to crack the racial glass ceiling. I would like to start off with introducing everyone, and we're just going to start off with Nicole. If you could please introduce yourself. You have been on the platform, I think this is your third or fourth time, if I'm not mistaken.
I believe number three.
Number three.
Yes.
So welcome. We're very excited to have you back. This is going to be a great conversation. Please introduce yourself again.
Well, my name is Nadesh Pochette. I'm from the Miami-Fort Lauderdale region, and I'm an arts advocate. And I've answered my call to magnify the arts to be like a cultural and social enlightenist so that healthy communities can grow and thrive in this global marketplace. So I use my creative talents and abilities in that way. And I want to just take a moment to thank Kai Marie for having us on the show. It's a great pleasure to have you. Awesome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to have you back. Now, Nicole, please introduce yourself to our listening guests.
Hi, thank you for having me as well. My name is Nicole Smith. I'm CEO and founder of JMS Creative Leadership Solutions. We are a boutique leadership development and coaching practice, but my niche is emotional intelligence. And so I focus on increasing or helping individuals increase emotional intelligence as well as other leadership competencies. But I came out of the corporate world after about 20 plus years because I wanted to be that person for individuals that I didn't have when I was growing up in the corporate world. So I've taken my purpose and then I'm helping leaders and aspiring leaders just be the best version of themselves if they're in the corporate world or if they're running their own business as well.
Thank you so much and welcome to the platform. And Dr. Tara, please introduce yourself to the audience.
Good evening, and again, thanks for having us this evening. My name is Dr. Tara Hines McCoy. I am a transitioned, I would say, global HR leader who's transitioned into being a career strategist. I was in corporate America for 15 plus years, and now I have the purpose and passion of assisting women who've been in corporate America for 7 plus years to make the decision on whether they want to go up or out of the organization. Thank you again.
Thank you all so much for that introduction. And I don't know if anyone else hears some tapping, so we may need to mute our mics if whenever you're not speaking, and we can see if that can kind of resolve that issue. Let's see. Cheers to the virtual world. Okay, so with that being said, our guests tonight, they all have something in common, and hopefully everyone can see this. This is the book. The title of the book is Shut 'Em Down, and this is a book about Black women, racism, and corporate America. So they all have shared their stories in this book about what they have gone through. And so we're looking very much so to having the conversation tonight about lessons they've learned and what they've done to kind of for their own wellness, their own mental and emotional wellness, being in certain types of environments. So we are going to dive right in, and we will start with you, Nicole. We'll start with you. Can you share us a little bit about how you found out about this opportunity to be a part of this wonderful book?
I actually, oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. Seems like so long ago. Someone reached out to me via LinkedIn and said, hey, Dr. Yazid was doing this anthology, and said, hey, I think you'd be great to be a part of that, because I'm already an author. So I just kind of understood how that process worked in regards to writing and getting a book published. But I just thought it would be exciting to work with all the dynamic women, and as well as hearing their stories as well. So I was like, hey, let's do this. So I reached out to Dr. Yazid, and as a group, I believe we all got on a call, and just hearing some of the stories and hearing how the process was going to go, it really piqued my interest. Plus, not too sure who out there has already read the book, but my story is a little bit different. But I thought it needed to be shared because, we deal with racism, discrimination, prejudice in the workplace, and it's not just from the Caucasians or Caucasian individuals. So my story is a little bit different, and I just thought it had to be shared. So I dove in, and it was a great experience. Plus, I met so many wonderful women that shared their story. But I like to say we shared our stories, but we also shared how we triumphed out of them. It wasn't just about trauma. We also shared how we triumphed, how we are now making a significant impact.
I love that you said that, and that we don't focus on, of course, there's the issue, and we all kind of know the issues that we'll experience growing into certain environments. But I love what you said about not only focusing on that, but what you can do if you're in that situation, and then how you can position yourself. So thank you so much. And we're looking forward to diving in to hearing some of the stories tonight. Dr. Tara, can you please provide how you became a part of this project?
Yes, so I actually followed Dr. Yazid, Dr. Carey, that we call her, on LinkedIn. And so, would follow, see some different posts, and actually saw a call to action for women who were in corporate America who may have experienced racism. And I was actually in transition at that time, knew that my position was going to be ending, and thought that would be really the time that I would have to really put all that I have into writing. And so, like Nicole, after becoming a part of the group and kind of hearing the stories, definitely felt like it was a great fit.
Thank you so much. And Nadej, I know that you have been on the platform before, but we do definitely have some new listeners. So please share your story, how you were connected to this project.
Like Dr. Tara, I started following Dr. Carey Yazid on social media, and she had a LinkedIn account. And to give you a little bit of a backdrop as to how the book came into fruition, there was a discussion in which she shared her experience of racism in corporate America back in June of 2020. She got such an overwhelming response that she felt that this was a perfect opportunity to put together an anthology where various women came together and shared their experience. And through the shared experience, it was an opportunity to help each other and lift each other up, because it was coming at a time which was interesting only because there was a lot going on in our country. We had the George Floyd, we had the Meghan Markle, and all these different various experiences. And then leaders were really coming out and speaking of their experiences. So when Dr. Carey decided to come out and do this project, it was a godsend because it came out at the right time in the right place. And before we knew it, we had a bestseller. So the synchronicity was amazing. I don't think anyone could have planned it better. And it was a godsend.
It's so true when you said that, as far as, what was going on in our country. And I will say, this was probably the first time that I can remember, or on LinkedIn, where I saw a lot of posts from colleagues who are in the Black community that were saying, I'm not okay. I don't want to talk, like on LinkedIn, like not on Facebook or, some other or Instagram or something like that, but on LinkedIn, that were saying, this is not okay. I'm not okay. Some people were posting they were taking a mental health day. And I liked seeing that, because so many times what we experience, whether it's directly or we see in our community, we have to kind of pretend like it's not happening. And we just have to pick it up like we didn't just see a traumatic situation occur on social media or on the news, and we just have to pretend like it didn't happen and just move on with our lives. And I agree, having the opportunity to share your stories in this book, that in itself is therapeutic, I would say. And please let me know, Nadej, if you agree, then we can go around if that was even therapeutic, or it wasn't like I'm an island unto myself dealing with all these emotions and all of these situations, but have someone says I have gone through that too. And maybe this is how I can help you navigate. But did you find therapy, Nadej, in telling your story? And then after answering that question, if you could please share with us a little bit of what is in the book. And we're not going to give everything away, because you got to go get the book. So we're only going to get a little bit of nuggets here tonight. But Nadej, please, starting with you, and then we'll go to Nicole.
I connected with Dr. Carey right away because she was speaking on a matter that we each experienced. What was beautiful about the book is that although our individual experience had some diversity to it, it was an opportunity to connect and say, yes, me too. I have that experience. So now I'm not alone in my experience. And no, I'm not crazy. This is really happening. So now what do I do about it? And where do we go from here? And this was the segue for the book.
Thank you so much. And so can you, not too much, just a little bit, okay. Just kind of whet the appetite. Can you share a little bit about your story?
Okay, so my experience of racism in the workplace came from a situation in which I was meeting and exceeding the mark. I had all the dots and checks on my performance reviews, but I was not being advanced. And then it came to light that my supervisor, who had less of an education than me, was seeking to sabotage my ability to advance in the company. She, for whatever reason, saw me as a threat more than an ally. So little did I know there were other unethical practices happening within the organization. So I had to make a tough decision. I could either stay in a difficult situation, which didn't really credit my worth and was leading to my destruction because I was getting sick, dealing with the stress, and then just really, or I could make another decision, which was to choose a better opportunity, which would be a win-win for me and my partnership. And I had to step out on faith and believe that the opportunity not only existed, but it was accessible. So I took a leap of faith and went forward. And shortly after that, the company that I was working with at the time ceased to exist.
Wow.
So that's what happened in my case.
And Nadej and again, we're going to go to Nicole so she can share some of her story. And I just want to add too, when we're dealing with race kind of in this era, right, there's not really a sign that says, no Black people. It's not kind of in your face that way. But there's these subtleties that exist. And then sometimes there's this feeling that you get of, I think that person said something, that with an intent to have a certain type of reaction. But it can be very challenging kind of explaining that maybe to HR or to your boss. Like, how do you explain this, that you've just, this encounter, maybe this microaggression that somebody else can say, oh, that's nothing, but it actually isn't nothing. That's something major because you've probably been dealing with how many other microaggressions before that occurred. So we now kind of live in this space where, yes, racism exists, but it may not be as blatant as it has been in the past. Now, sometimes that is not the case, but other times where it's kind of like that hidden racism where you kind of get the vibe or that you're being treated a certain way because based of your race. But sometimes it can be hard to communicate that to HR or another person that is in an authoritative position that can do something about it. So Nicole, wanted to get your thoughts on that too, as kind of like how we're seeing racism exist, but also wanting to hear your story as well.
I think one of the first questions you asked was, was it therapeutic? And I had to sit back and think about it for a second and go, was it therapeutic? It was like I had told my story to like various people, I think it was like validation of that I wasn't crazy. Like, did this really just happen? And then I kind of just let it go. I was going to write about another situation that I had, but I felt like it was just that same story that we hear. And I was like, no, I'm gonna come from a different angle. So this is where in the book, I want individuals to know that each story, like when you read each story, if you take it in isolation, it may seem very like trivial, like each little individual story, but in that cumulative effect, like read it from beginning to end, you realize it wears us down. It's just each story you hear, it just, oh my gosh, it wears us down. And that's how we need to look at it. That's how I tell individuals with diversity, equity, and inclusion, we need to come together to move this needle, because it's always exhausting for one person to keep trying to do it. And do know in the workplace, I'm not the spokesperson for all the Black women leadership in the workplace. So I think it just, we need to come together in the workplace and help move that needle. So as the judge said, when she saw this situation going, was that a microaggression? Was that a subtle insult? It's like, yeah, it probably was. But there's going to be individuals that try to talk us out of feeling that way. They're going to take that feeling away from us. But this is where in the workplace we come together to really understand what just happened to you. So when I go to human resources, don't discount it. Don't dismiss it. I'm coming to you with a real feeling of what just happened. And so that I just wanted to add that piece in regards to being therapeutic and just helping move the needle forward. But in my story was just a little, like I said, it was a little bit different. I had same race discrimination. And I had another Black female try to claim that I wasn't treating her the same as a white employee that worked directly for me. And because she was called out on her lack of competencies, for her not doing well on the project that she was working on, she made it into a race issue. And it had nothing to do with race. It had to do with the fact that she didn't do what she was supposed to do, as a lack of competency there. However, I do want individuals to know that I was in a leadership role and she was not. I did everything in my power to try to help her when I saw that she was struggling. And I don't know if it was pride, I don't know what it was, ego, or trying to play the other side to make them believe that she did know what she was talking about and look how good I am. And to me, she perpetuated into the way Black women are treated in the workplace. She made it into a race issue, even to the point where she was quoting Minda Hart's book. And there was no reason to quote her book, but she was sending me texts quoting Minda Hart's book, which is a great book. But in this situation, it had no relevance. And so when I say that hurt me to the core, it really hurt my soul, because I go into the workplace already knowing how certain individuals are going to treat us. It's like you armor up because you know how you're going to be treated, just because that's how it's always been, unfortunately. But when it comes from one of your own, that hurts. That hurts. It's specifically when you're doing all you can to increase diversity higher, and when you've done things to make sure that your team is diverse and fostering inclusion, when you make sure that recruiting practices are including diversity and inclusion, when you ensure that promotions are including, diversity and an inclusion, and then to have one of your own come in and try to tear that down, it hurts you to the core, especially when it's one of your own.
It's so true. And it does. It's another level of pain, because the thing is, you're already dealing with issues at your level, right? And so it's like, don't you see what I'm already working with? I'm already dealing with this. I'm trying to help you. And that really resonates with me, what you're saying, Nicole, because although I did not work in corporate America, I worked in government. And I was in a position in which I had a department which I supervised. And my department was predominantly, from our community, but I had a new person that started who, I thought we were friends, and so then I said, okay, we're going to make sure that you get the training that I did not get, so you can really shine. And it all backfired. It got very, very toxic. And so when you said the hurt, it's just like, again, trying to look out, trying to do what's best for you to help you succeed, not going above and beyond, what other people are getting, but making sure that you have the tools necessary because you're new coming into this department. And to have all that blow up, I will be honest, for the next position I had, it gave me caution.
Yes.
Because I said, I don't know if I can, and it wasn't about the friendship. It was just extending myself to the next person, knowing what they may encounter because they're Black. And I, it was like a little pause there, like, I don't know if I want to go that hard again because I got really burned.
Yeah, I got really burned. And just like you said, I don't know if I want to go that hard again. And then, I'm sitting here trying to say, I've been there, I've done that. Let me help you. It's knowing how to make that next chess move, and it blew up in my face. And I was very disappointed. And, there was another Black female also too in the department. She was kind of on that same level. And I just backed away because I was like, I can't get involved in this. And this is where I say in my story, it was the first time I was sister girl. And my mentor told me that this was going to happen as you rise up in leadership. It's like the Obama effect when he became president. What was he going to do for all the Black people? It was that same effect. So when I rose up in leadership, it was, okay, now what you going to do for all the Black people in the departments? And I'm going, it's not my sole responsibility. I will do my part. I will, give it a good fight. I said, but it's not just solely on me. And she said it would happen. My mentor said it would happen, and it did. And I was like, whoa. So it hit me to the core. So now, as you said, if I'm not in the corporate world anymore, but if I was to go back in, I would tread very lightly. I would be very cautious.
You actually gave me an idea for another episode because I think this happens more than we talk about, and it is very hurtful. And then we're kind of like, so what do I do with all this hurt? Because I can't really talk to anybody about it. So Dr. Tar, I'm sorry.
Be called a sellout. It's like you're being called a sellout, and we don't talk about it. But this is where I say, in the fight for diversity, equity, and inclusion, all of us play a part in this. All of us. And so we have to sit back and go, we're getting racism from this group. We're getting discrimination from at times our own culture. So we have to sit back and look at it and go, I got to fight them and I got to fight you. And we don't talk about it, but it happens more often I am sure I'm resonating with someone out there. It is happening more often than we want to talk about.
You are right. You're over here bringing up so many memories right now. I got to focus, though. I got to focus. Okay. Dr. Tara, please share with us your story.
Yeah, so similar to Nicole, but I was on the other side. The encounter that I had in corporate America was with someone who looked like me, a Black female in the leadership role. And what happened in that situation is, behind closed doors, conversations occur. And when you say that this is a one-on-one confidential conversation, I trust that that is what it is. So some things may be shared. And in my case, we were talking about what the next steps in my career look like. And if it was a matter of going up or out of the organization. And as we talked through that, she made some recommendations. I said I would think about those. And the next day, it became public information that, my intent was to leave the organization, which was not the conversation that I had with her, nor did it represent what she shared with me. And so, very unfortunate. And quite honestly, I'm fortunate because I've seen leadership who look like me do it well. And I've had mentors who look like me who've done it well. So I know that I have seen it. I know what it looks like. I know what it feels like. And so I didn't leave the organization with, not trusting those who look like me, because I was fortunate early in my career to have those behind me that look like me and to really help me get to the next level. But I thought it was just a really unfortunate situation that we put our trust and that someone would put their trust in me when they see me in corporate America, that they could have, a one-on-one conversation and know that it's not going anywhere. And I pride myself in that as a leader. And I just unfortunately had higher expectations for this leader. And so that's where it gives me pause that I can't really, kind of push my expectations on others, because you don't know where they're going to go with it, where they're going to land, and really who they are when it's behind closed doors.
That's so true. And for those that are listening, please make sure you give this video a thumbs up. Please also share with your networks, because I'm sure that the stories that you're hearing tonight will definitely resonate with people, maybe family, with friends, colleagues. So please make sure that you share this link with others so that that way they can receive some helpful information on their career path. So Dr. Tara, staying with you. So in this environment that you found yourself in, what did you do to manage your mental and emotional health? Again, that's a confidentiality that was broken. So what did you do in that situation just to maintain your sanity while you were in that situation?
That's a really great question. And as I reflect on that, I did a couple of different things, because all of my mentors in corporate America didn't look like me. However, they were trusted advisors, and they still are a part of my life today. So I reached out to them just to make sure that maybe it was me. Maybe I was, maybe I did a misstep. Maybe I had a misstep in my conversation. But as I shared the story, and then when the book came out, the feedback that I received was that your story is consistent with what you told me a year ago and what you wrote in the book. And so that was confirmation that, what I felt and what I experienced at that time was real. And so reaching out to those trusted advisors, but also for me, walking is therapeutic for me. And so really just getting out, clearing my mind, thinking through what next steps really look like. But also, to be quite honest, I also just really initiated those conversations with leaders on the next level, because that's where it had gone to. And it was unfortunate that now that this perception is out here, or this story is being told by someone else. And I refuse to let that happen. And I was very vocal to say, I'm going to have the conversations with those leaders on the next level so they're clear on what my intentions are. And so for me, taking control of that situation is it really helped my mental. And along with just the things that I would do, just whenever you feel like there's a toxic environment, when the culture is not right, I find ways really for self-care to just step away, to separate myself from what's going on in that work environment and what's going on in my personal life.
So true. I remember at a job that I had, I'm trying to be as vague as possible in case anybody is listening, but I would just kind of put on my calendar, I would just say like private, like on my Outlook calendar, and that would be my time. And I would tell my executive assistant, I was like, I'm not taking any meetings or anything. She's like, oh, because somebody's going to be in here. I said, yes, me. So nobody comes in here. It's just time that I need just in between a meeting, just kind of taking a breath, a moment. Because in these environments, you are hopping to the next thing, to the next thing, the next thing, also dealing with whatever other toxic issues. So I would start just kind of penning that in on my calendar, just to take a moment, to take a breath, to do a quick 5-minute prayer or a meditation just to get my thoughts right. So thank you so much for sharing that. And that even is taking control, even doing that part of saying, you know what, I'm going to center myself and I'm going to practice my own self-care in the midst of all this chaos. And so Nadej, for you, what did you do? You know that obviously you should be promoted with the work that you're doing. You see what's going on. How did you manage your mental and emotional health during that time?
Well, part of my self-care was taking temporary exits, just like what you had mentioned prior. Sometimes you just need to take a step back to assess what's going on and then come up with what you're going to do, because it's not enough to realize that there's a challenge. You've got to do something about it. So I made a very hard decision, which was to break away, because I knew that despite all the effort that I was making, it wasn't really going to make a difference at that moment. The organization wasn't ready to change. So I broke away, and I had to believe that there was an opportunity there that I could be in a win-win partnership in, and that it existed. Those are the two things that you have to have, that belief, because when you don't have that belief, or if you're experiencing unbelief in yourself, that's how you get stuck and you get trapped, and that's dangerous. So I took that leap of faith, and now I'm in a much better place because I learned from that experience. I learned that it's not enough to just go into an organization because there's a I'm hiring sign or some sort of a uh, welcome to apply for a position. You need to do your homework. Take the time to understand the organization, how it functions, its culture, and the kind of people that work there, because these are the people that you're going to be spending most of your time with. And as you can see, job searching is a very time consuming practice. So you want to make sure that you're going to be in good company and that you're going to be in an environment that's going to allow you to thrive. So take the time to do your homework. One of my favorite uh, career coaches, Jacqueline V. Twilla, says for every $1,000 that you're going to earn, that's being put on the table, make sure that you are preparing yourself for at least an hour per $1,000. So not only do you want to research the organization, but you want to be preparing yourself when you get to the table, when it's time to negotiate for the kind of offer that's going to be placed there, just to put yourself at the best place that you can be. So, because one of the things that you want to make sure is that once you accept an offer, you're in a good place so you can stay there. nobody wants to get into a position where they're going to have to leave because the deal wasn't really right. So do those things up front in the beginning, and the third aspect I want to mention to the viewers is that know yourself, know your values. Everybody has their limit as to what they can take. Understand what you have to bring to the table, ways that you can develop yourself so that you know what you're walking in with. That way you can choose the opportunities that are going to be win-win versus win-lose.
No, very true, Nadej. And I like what you said about learning from that experience, because it's so true. Even if, and I'll speak for myself, when I went through that situation with that person, and I was like, whoa, what is this? I'm trying to help. And you're like throwing me under the bus for something that's not my fault, and then rolling over the bus, rolling me over and checking like, is she down yet? So it was some crazy stuff going on. But I say that because even though I was cautious the next time, I also was more observant of my relationships that I had with others. So that's what I took from that experience. I was like, okay, I can't, and I think Dr. Tara, you had said this too, I can't view everyone how I would view this relationship. Like I want to come in and help. I'm like, oh, great, you're going to impart some knowledge to me to help my career. Everybody is not going to look at it that way. Some people are like, okay, so how can I position myself to get her job or to get something that I need? So I think when you said learning from that experience, that's so important to do that and, not beat yourself up, but to learn from that. So thanks for pointing that out. And for you, Nicole, in that situation, oh my gosh, from the pressures from, folks that you maybe are reporting to and then dealing with staff. And I would like to say this too, I don't know if this was your experience, but when you're in that situation too, sometimes that person that you may be having difficulty with will try to go to the superiors to try to go around you and create issues as well, which then that just, could look to others like, can this person manage staff? It just creates a whole nother set of issues. So not that happened to you, but please share with us, how did you manage your emotional and mental health with all of that going on?
Well, it's funny because like I said earlier, I'm a certified emotional intelligence coach. So I have to take all the emotional information that's coming towards me and show that I can respond appropriately. I was initially so angry. I think I left for the day. I was like, I'm out of here. And I got in my car and I drove home. But that's when I was getting all her text at the same time. And I was like, ah! So what I did, just like, Dr. Tara, I spoke to, some advisors, my mentor, am I off here? Spoke to a very good friend and what did I do wrong? That type of thing. And initially I was thinking it was all me. Like, what did I do? What did I say? But, I did the whole, the self-care, but what I'm going to share is when this incident happened, I was already 90% into my exit strategy anyway with this organization, because there were some other things going on. And this was probably the straw that broke the camel's back. I was like, I'm done. I just don't want to deal with this anymore. And that's when I decided to leave the corporate world, just totally leave the corporate world. So I think what kept me sane was the fact that I knew I was leaving. And I was like, I'm just going to leave this situation. But just like Dr. Tara, I walked, I exercised, I cleared my head. I spoke to advisors and mentors. But not to give too much away in the story in regards to what I did, I have a human resources background as well. So I knew what I needed to do so she wouldn't get to leadership before me. And I think that was the difference between her and I, was that I was strategic in my next moves. Listen, I play chess, I don't play checkers. So I was very strategic in my move while she was over there, having attitudes, rolling her neck and talking to other people and so forth. I was making my next moves in regards to share my side of the story first. So I think that was sort of therapeutic for me as well, because I knew she wasn't going to take those steps. So again, I knew I was on my way out on my own accord, and I was okay with that, and I was at peace with that. So that helped me a lot.
I just wanted to say, and anyone can add on, but the common kind of thread that I hear is speaking to my mentor and exit strategy. So I just want to say, for those that are listening, the importance of, if you are in the corporate world or government or nonprofit or wherever, these issues can still arise. What our guests tonight, you keep hearing, I spoke to my mentor. So that just speaks to the importance of having a mentor while you are on your career path, and also the importance of having an exit strategy. If usually there are those flags that you're like, okay, this is, before it gets horrible, there's usually flags that are that you're being shown that this is going in a very bad direction. So I would say, before it gets to that point where you're like, I can't even walk into the building anymore, before that, you get to that point, start to develop your exit strategy, and definitely start to have, even before that point, but have conversations with your mentors about what's going on, because many times they can help you to navigate through different spaces because they probably have experienced it. Would any of you like to add on to that?
Yeah, I would say the mentor is very imperative, and you can have more than one mentor, and it doesn't have to be someone that's in the workplace where you work, where you're employed. You can have a mentor for different areas, and that mentor does help guide you through this situation, through the next promotion you want, whatever it may be, but just to get that guidance. And to me, that's called like reality testing. Your reality, you're testing, can I go buy the unicorn or not? I mean, you're doing you're doing that reality test. But also to your point of the exit strategy, you actually have to have a strategy of how are you going to move out or up, or but to me, the exit strategy is how you're going to move out of the organization. But how are you going to move out, when financially afford it? What are you going to do once you're out? You have that strategy. And that's one of the things my mentor told me as I was calling her, giving her my aches and my desires and what I thought my purpose was and so forth. She was telling me to create an exit strategy, because you don't want to be in the situation where you say, I quit, or you're fired, or you don't want to be in that situation. So have an exit strategy, but find that mentor that is helping you thrive, as Najed said earlier, helping you thrive and helping you be the best version of yourself, but also to helping you see your potential. Because sometimes you need help seeing that potential, but helping you see that potential and helping you know your value and understand your worth and how you can take it and just move to the next level. You need a mentor to help you figure all that out at times.
So true. And I'm glad that you said that. And then I want to go to you, Dr. Tara, when you said as far as knowing your worth, because when you're in those situations, you may start to question yourself and question your abilities and wonder like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'm not capable of X, Y, and Z, when you know that you are. But just this, because of the situation and the environment, it can start to bring into question. So yes, I think what you said is so important. The mentors can kind of help ground you and say, no, listen, no, you got this. Wake up. Yes. You're good.
Also, too, helping you walk through that imposter syndrome that you're feeling and helping you see the receipts. Sometimes your mentors have to pull the receipts out for you, but walking you through that imposter syndrome and basically taking you by your shoulders and checking you and saying, no, you got this. So sometimes you need that help.
So true. And you guys, make sure if you're watching, give this video a thumbs up, and please also share. And Dr. Tara, going to you to add on to what we were talking about here, just with the mentorship and exit strategy, the importance of that when you find yourself in these type of environments. I think you're on mute.
Sorry. I wanted to add on to what Nicole was saying, because in addition to those things, what those mentors and or sometimes they're just called sponsors can do is to help you see the red flags before you approach them, before they come up. Because many times, particularly when you're new in the corporate, coming out of college, and or you're new to the organization, you may overlook things, or you may not think things are what they are. And having that mentor and establishing that partnership with someone who's your sponsor will say, hey, this isn't the person that you really need to have those conversations with. Or, this is the area in which you really need to focus. So those points that Nicole made, in addition to, having that person who is a trusted advisor who can let you know, hey, you're approaching a red flag here, is really, really important as you are trying to matriculate in corporate America.
That's so true. I hope everyone's listening is taking notes, because these are some gems that are being dropped, and you may not hear this, when you're kind of in your place of work. So I hope that you're definitely taking advantage of the words of wisdom that are being dropped by our guest tonight. And Nadej, would you like to add to that the importance of mentorship, and also adding on to what Dr. Tara had just said?
Right. The mentorship is crucial to career success. And there is no excuse as to not have one, only because with today's technology, you can communicate on LinkedIn and social media with a variety, and they're at your fingertips. Some of them are offering information for free. And just to name a few, we have Deborah Gray Young, we have Minda Hartz, we have Jacqueline V. Twilley, Sherry Sims, JT O'Donnell. All of these individuals and more are available at your fingertips. They're offering resources for free. So it is your duty, if you're serious about career success, to take advantage and utilize the information and the digital networks that are available to boost you. And I also want to mention that, another thing that you want to consider when you're driving for career success is the quality of your work relationships. That's crucial to getting anywhere, because jobs are not just within your organization, they're all around you, they're outside. So you want to nurture those good relationships and make them work. Relationships are reciprocal. It's a give and take, and also you want to be committed to growing yourself. Continuing education is important. The background information that you learn in school, eventually it will be outdated. So commit to continuing education. A lot of continuing education are offered at various colleges and universities and through your professional organizations. You also want to harness your ability to communicate. And Nicole knows this. Without the ability to present, whether it be on paper or in any public speaking, you will not be taken seriously. So consider those facets.
Thank you so much, Nadej. So and even though the experiences are a little bit different, I do want to talk about diversity and inclusion. And Nadej, you kind of have hit the point in a way, just talking about what was going on during this book coming together. And we've seen, at least I'll put it this way, I have seen more of a push about diversity and inclusion. Every corporation now has a diversity and inclusion program. And out of nowhere, these things just kind of grew up overnight. So Nicole, I want to talk to you. What have you seen in this space, and has it been a benefit, or are we just what are your thoughts on it?
Oh my goodness. Listen, I get so many phone calls, and people want to have unconscious bias training, and they want to have, talk about taboo topics and so forth. And I ask them, okay, what triggered this? What is your long-term plan? And they get quiet. I go, okay, are we just doing training, or are we just checking the box? There are organizations that are truly making a difference. I mean, they're it's unfortunate that the George Floyd murder had to happen for them to go, oh, we need to, do something about this. But do know that majority of us do not face racism in the workplace, that explicit bias. What we deal with in the workplace is that unconscious bias, or I have to say, we deal with the microaggressions, those little subtle insults. Nobody just comes up to us and says, we don't want that N-word working next to me. Nobody says that. We deal with more of the microaggressions, okay? So a lot of organizations are now trying to have programs or initiatives in regards to having training, unconscious bias, eliminate some of those double standards and so forth. But what I've seen a lot of organizations also try to do, or what I have talked to organizations about, is actually having a diversity, equity, inclusion, meaning you're looking at everything through the entire employee life cycle that has any type of bias, any type of racial connotation, any double standard. I mean, all the way from your personnel policies, vacation policies, recruiting policies, all the way down to exit interviews and so forth. That's what I'm fighting for. That's what I'm trying to get organizations to do, is to have a full out diversity, equity, and inclusion department, someone to head it, but not, when I say head, it means spearheaded and include everyone. It's not just for that individual. It's not just for HR. It's everyone is included in this initiative. And it is sponsored by executive C-suite leadership, because if they don't show that they believe in it, all the way down to their employees, they're not going to believe it either. So I've seen organizations truly try to make an impact that are looking at it from the basement all the way up to the top floor all the way down to the basement. And then I see organizations that are truly fumbling. They're fumbling. They're making mistakes. They're not being accountable for the mistakes. That's hard as well. But I do want everyone to understand if your organization is trying to put together a plan or an initiative, that is not going to happen overnight. It is going to take some time. Okay. I mean, come on, we only have 2 Black female CEOs in Fortune 500 companies. Okay. It's going to take us a long time to get there. But I do have to say, I need everyone to be a change agent. Everyone. Don't just rely on the white employees or the white leadership to make it better. Okay. Everyone has to play a part in this. And also too, we need to stop telling women of color specifically to stop leaning in. Stop telling them to lean in. Go get them a chair and sit it at the table and say, Dr. Tara, this is where you're sitting. Because Black women or women of color have always been ambitious. We've always been intelligent. We've always been determined. We've always had the skills and the talents to sit at the table. So stop telling women of color to lean in. All right. And that's one thing I hear a lot of organizations saying, what do we do for the people of color? Well, that's my number one thing. Stop telling us to lean in. We've already been there. We've been leaning in. It's just now you just need to give us a place at the table. So I know that was kind of like a long one, but just the point is that I see organizations doing very well, and I see organizations that are fumbling. But I also ask, as people in the workplace, what are you doing to help move the needle as well?
I loved everything that you said. And especially when you said it starts at the top. This isn't going to work if you don't have the folks at the top that are going to truly implement this and make sure that it is being implemented throughout the whole system. It can't just be if it's kind of haphazard and it's not really serious or taken seriously. Your employees know that, and they are going to not take it seriously at all, no matter who you bring in to try to begin to develop a program for you. And would anybody like to add to what Nicole has stated regarding diversity and inclusion?
I like to add to that. When we think about DE&I, and Nicole, thank you, because you jumped into a lot of different pieces there, all that kind of translate to the work that I've done as well. But most employers expect that DE&I equates to change. It should equate to change, but the change comes in action. So you have to have some really viable, robust things that everyone is going to do or take accountability for, to see the change from a diversity, equity, and inclusion perspective. Many times, within organizations, and just from my perspective of the organizations I've been in, it has been a numbers game. It's about the head count. How many minorities do we have in these leadership positions? How many do we have in a particular function? Versus having real uncomfortable conversations about starting it from the time the job is posted and ensuring that the language there is attractive across the board. and that it's inclusive across the board, from the job being posted to the interview practices that you're doing, making sure that everyone has a seat at the table, not necessarily everyone that's interested in the role, but do they reflect from an ethnicity perspective the community around in which you're hiring. So you fail to attract diversity when your organization is not diverse. And quite honestly, a lot of this, I would say, when I think about even my HR experience, diversification for me really in that early 90s time frame is when you start to really get a peek under the tent, where they were trying to take baby steps and recruiting at HBCUs from depending on the type of industry that they're in. And you find that that's how those leaders, who many today are still in those organizations because of that particular initiative. Now, was it called a DE&I initiative? I'm sure it was called something different at that time. But DE&I programs do not automatically equate to change. The change comes, as Nicole mentioned, it has to be from the top and cascade down, but not just from the top. Everyone in the organization has to wrap their arms around it and be held accountable for the work that's done, the things that are said, the type of partnerships that are made in order for us to see change.
So true. Thank you for that. I know, right? We just take a moment right now. That was wonderfully said. Thank you all both so much. Nadej, would you like to add to those points?
I think we're living in exciting times, only because when I started way back when, we didn't have a diversity and inclusion. We only had diversity. So I think when I saw diversity and inclusion coming in, it was when the bottom fell out back in 2008, and then the economy became global, and then we had elected our first Black president, and all of a sudden, all these sweeping changes came in that some of the organizations weren't really ready for. I think it was just a shockwave, and then all of a sudden we were dealing with this immense resistance in various places in society. So yes, these are exciting times. We have an opportunity, I think, to make real change with the diversity and inclusion and equity. So I'm excited to see what kinds of opportunities arise and what kinds of organizations make it to the top because of their positive response to the changes that are happening today.
Agreed.
Kai, one thing I just want to make sure we add is that we have to make sure too, I don't want to say start, but we ensure that in the educational system as well, because there are individuals within our leadership and government and so forth that are trying to change and stop what's being said and done in the curriculum. And that is going to be harmful. That's going to be very harmful, because we have that younger generation that's not going to know the history and where we came from, the truth of where we came from, to significantly make a change. We have private industry that can, yes, have these programs. But when we're talking about making changes to the curriculum to where we're not going to know, or that generation is not going to know about slavery to the fullest extent or understand everything that's taking place, Jim Crow laws and so forth, that's going to be harmful for us. So it's not just fighting for this in the workplace, in organizations. We're also fighting for this in our educational system as well.
That's such a good point, and I'm so glad that you said that, because that's an eraser of history when you're seeing that happen, and that's something we cannot afford to do at this point. As we see a lot of things happening economically, we do not need something else to kind of come and affect us in that way. So I'm so glad that you had mentioned that, Nicole. And our time, oh my gosh, time has moved so fast. So before we end our podcast, our episode tonight, I want to go around to everyone and just, if you could just provide some parting words to our audience tonight, especially if we have any Black women that are listening and maybe what you have expressed tonight, your story has resonated with them. Just what some words of encouragement or advice would you like to leave with them? And we'll start with Dr. Tara, then we'll go to Nicole, and then Nadej will end with you.
Thank you again. What I would leave as parting words is, understanding and tackling the racial glass ceiling has not, is not, will not ever be an easy feat. It's not. However, it's important that if you are in corporate America, if you are interested in entering corporate America, that you really understand the landscape. As Najesh mentioned earlier, understanding the culture. Make sure you check to see if there are leaders at the top that look like you. Make sure that you understand what their mission and values are. Find someone who's worked there before, or even if you worked there before because there's a reason that they left, and are those who are currently in the organization to have a conversation with. I've been tapped on the shoulder, sent DMs, from many people who are strangers to just say, hey, I see you worked at this organization. Do you mind connecting to share with me your experience? I'm always open to it, and I'm never going to deter anyone from going. But when they ask for my opinion, I'm very transparent and want them to have eyes wide open on what they're walking into. Again, I just think that it's important to know that the issues that we are facing today have been issues for quite some time. And so, as Nicole mentioned, they're not going to be removed or go away fast or quickly, but we all are accountable to being the change that we want to see. Thank you.
And so I'm just going to feed off of Dr. Tara in regards to moving to the corporate world. I want you to know who you are. I want you to be sure of your identity. How are you showing up and how are you showing off when you go into the workplace? It's hard at times to show up as your authentic self, but you can do it. You can do it. So I want you to sit back as you go into the corporate world, or you continue to walk into the corporate world. I want you to show up and show off. And this means that you have to continue having a growth mindset. You have to have courage and you have to have heart to do this. Okay. But I also too want to add that you have to have a voice. Okay. So when you see that something's not right, or you feel something's not right, follow your intuition. And my last thing is I always tell people, you're not a tree. You can move. If something is not right, if the culture is not for you, if the leadership is not your style, it's not what you want, you can move. You can leave. Do not stay in a toxic situation, but just show up and show off. Okay. Just know your identity, know who you are.
And in addition to showing up and showing out, save that time, just like Dr. Tara mentioned, and research that organization. Like I said before, many of these people who have worked in the organization or who are working in the organization are available on social media like LinkedIn, and do your homework. Build yourself up career-wise. Book knowledge is not enough anymore. Build yourself up so that you can be taken seriously, so that you can present yourself in a way that you can be taken in a way that even if the opportunity doesn't show up where you are right now, it'll come knocking at your door, whether somebody offers it to you or it finds its way to you. We live in an abundant universe. There are no limitations and there is no lack.
Thank you so much. And that is a perfect ending to our conversation tonight. I would like to thank my guests. Thank you so much for your time and for coming on this platform and sharing your words of wisdom, your experiences with us, and best practices. Because a lot of times you can feel stuck in a situation and not know which way to go. And I think you were able to express clearly of how you can push through those challenging times and do so successfully. So thank you so much. I asked my guests to hold on for one moment. And so those that are watching, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Be sure to join me next Tuesday at 8 p.m., same time, same place. Again, please give this video a thumbs up and please also share. Have a great night.